to do before you leave your job or as soon as you get done is to have an actionable plan on how to gain clients, right? So for about a year or so, I was going live on Facebook, right? I went live pretty much every Tuesday night at I think at 8 o'clock. And I did that for a purpose. Now I'm starting to, now I'm starting to expose some of my tactics, right? But I created a Facebook group, and then I went live in order to gain clients or to gain exposure, right? This is Regina. I'm building my clout. People understand that I know what I'm talking about, so on and so forth. I also created a spreadsheet, right? I create spreadsheets of businesses who are owned by my target market, right? I also use the database, the library database. If you haven't seen my last video, I talked about how the library has resources. So, you know, what company is actually able to pay for me. I created a list of those people, right? So that I can know who to talk to. I did a lot of research on how to gain clients, right? And so when people say, well, how did you gain your clients? How did this and how did that? Well, I did a lot of research. It wasn't just me grinding on social media. It was reading over here and saying, okay, these are the top 30 ways to gain clients, and talking to people and saying, you know, I have this business. Is there anybody who you know who needs this service, right? And so that was important, is to have an actionable plan. And one thing that was super, super important for me is pretty much as soon as I quit, either the same day or the next day, I started emailing my network. I started reaching out to my network. And when I say my network, I mean people who are able to make decisions. They're decision makers in companies. I emailed, you know, a chief communications officer. I emailed managers. I emailed, you know, VPs, like whoever I could talk to. I was emailing those people saying, hey, guess what? You know, I'm going for myself full time. Let's go out for coffee. Now, I will say that's very important. My original message, I did tell them that I had went and started my own thing, but I just said, hey, can we get together and talk? I did not ask for business. I did say, if you know, during our coffees, I did say, you know, if you have anything, let me know, so on and so forth. And there were definitely leads that were given during that time frame. But taking time to sit with people one-on-one and actually valuing their time was super important. And then also I had tons of feedback. Whether or not they had business for me, they gave me feedback that I was able to apply really, really early in the game, right? I'm like 2 days a week out into my business, and you know, they're saying, okay, you may have a gap here and we can help you with this gap, right? So now I have partners, right? Or if we see this business for you, you know, we'll be sure to reach out. And so just making sure that people were aware that Regina is here, RRP Marketing is here, this is what we do, and this is how we can help you and how we can serve you. And then also, if you can just help me, that's good, right? So this is one thing that we probably need to talk about. People don't love to talk about it, but we have to talk about it. You see how I fix those glasses? So getting a little bit in the weeds right here, it's because we're going to talk about contracts, right? What I did during my time while I was still working for companies full-time was that I developed my contract, and it has gone through several revisions in order to make sure that I have something that I can hold clients to. I think that all of us understand the burn of not being paid, right? What I say is to take that as a lesson learned and keep it moving, right? And so during the time while I was working for other people, like I said, I was managing vendors myself. And so I would review, I would sign the contract, so on and so forth. And that gave me insight into how to write a contract. So Regina, you don't need a 5 or 7 page contract, right? Get to the important things. So for me, it's talking about scope of project. Like, what's that word? What's scope of project, right? I know what that is now. And how do you charge for that? You know, and then what's the billing gonna be? How do you get paid? For me, for example, certain people I have paid, you know, up front, at least 50%. Generally, when it's somebody new that I'm working with, they pay 50% up front, just so that I'm making sure that I'm getting paid, right? And then when it comes to corporations, because I didn't realize I was going to have so many corporate clients, right? And corporate clients work off of what's called a net, right? Net 30, net 15, net 45, meaning that they pay 30 days after they've received the invoice or the bill, right? And so it depends on who I'm working with to say how I'm actually billing clients. But I had to develop those processes in advance. And so now when I have a client that comes to me and says, hey, can I work with you guys? It takes me like minutes because there's only certain portions of my contract that I actually need to change per client, right? And so that was super important. Also, with that, when it comes to developing processes, is understanding how you're going to bring a new client or a new customer on. That's really important for me. So do I have a meeting with them? Do I charge them for that initial meeting? How do I understand what they need? Do we speak, via conference call, or do we meet in person? And those are things that I had to actually develop, before I actually started working full time for myself. And it was helpful, just being able to work with other companies and seeing how all that works out, right? So definitely contracts and other processes are important. So, guys, the next thing that is super important is to have flexibility. Say that with me, flexibility. It is important to be flexible with your business. And that's because you may think, when I was talking about testing your target market, you may think that you have one target market in mind and you actually are starting to get business from like a lot of other people, right? And that may mean that you may need to revisit some things, like how do I actually work with this type of client, right? And so for me, like I said, I didn't expect to get so many corporate clients so quickly. And I had to say, okay, wait, this is good, this is how I work with them, right? And so initially I was all about like 50% down, but corporate clients are actually established, right? They're established businesses. And so I can put them on a net 30, and I understand that that's what corporate clients actually desire. They desire to pay 30 days after the invoice. Like if you say, and I know this because I've had to pay clients before or pay vendors before. If you say, I want my money right now, I'm starting to question you when I'm on the client side. Why do you need your money this instance right now? Like that doesn't seem very professional, right? And it also leaves a level of distrust when it comes to corporate clients. So having flexibility is important. Also flexibility with your pricing, right? I've had to test different levels of pricing. At one point in time I was $25 an hour. At one point in time I was thinking $35 an hour. My pricing is not that anymore. It's not that low. I'll tell you that much. But I had to be flexible with that and understand what I actually brought to the table, and my prices increased as my confidence and my skill level increased, right? And so being flexible and understanding what your value actually is also, just be realistic with yourself. So we talked about the importance of knowing how to gain clients, right? But it's also important to have just a marketing plan, right? I think that people really undervalue the importance of a marketing plan. They understand marketing, like I need to advertise myself, but they undervalue the importance of having a plan. Where are you going to actually advertise, right? What's your language gonna be? What's your tone gonna be? What does your brand look like? What do you want people to actually remember about you? How often do you want to be in front of people? Who are the people that you need to be in front of? And then how do you do that, right? You have to have a marketing plan. And for me, it's very easy for me to execute a marketing plan pretty much off head because I've been doing it for the past 16 years, right? But for other people, it takes time. You have to sit down and say, do I use LinkedIn? Do I use Facebook? Do I look for freelance roles somewhere else? Do I, have one-on-one meetings? Do I go to networking events? Like, what does it actually look like to network and advertise for myself? So what does it look like to actually market and advertise who I am, right? And so those are things that we have to think about. We have to be very cognizant of how we're advertising, right? And one thing that's super important is our language, guys. Our language, our imagery. This is all creating an impression of who you are. And the impression of who you are also dictates how much you charge, right? And so if you're out there saying buy, 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 and that's all you're saying, then what value are you actually adding to your customers into your, potential clients. And so it's super important to understand the need to actually develop a marketing and an advertising plan, right? So that's really important. Item number 965, because clearly I have lost count by now, is to develop an audience and a customer base, right? So I said before that I had created a Facebook group and that I was going live. One of the things that I was doing during that time frame was creating an audience, right? So that when it was time for me to actually leave my job, and I knew in 2017 that I was planning on eventually leaving. So let's, let's take that cat out the bag right now, right? I knew that I was planning on leaving. And so I started developing a customer base using primarily Facebook at that time frame, some Instagram, and so I use that to, get people to know me, get people to know about me, to develop myself as a thought leader, to showcase myself as a thought leader, right? And so over the course of time, people began to know who Regina was, what she had to offer, and what she brought to, corporations, to businesses, to solopreneurs, whatever it is. And by the time that I left, I had people who actually knew who I was. I also had one consistent client who was on a retainer. That pretty much means that they pay me monthly for a certain amount of hours that actually covered my mortgage, right? And so just having that customer base helped me develop my business, right? Gave me the ability to leave with more confidence, right? Having that confidence is super important when you actually leave a job. The other thing that happened, or that's important to note, is that once you have one or two good clients, then they start to roll in a little bit more easily and effectively. And once you've developed that customer base, like I tell people to give themselves, especially if you're selling to other businesses, give yourself a year for people to even pretty much pick up what you're putting down, to drink the Kool-Aid, that type of thing. So it's gonna take time. It takes time to actually build a business, and building that audience base was super important for me. The final thing that I want to say when it comes to being prepared to step out and work for yourself full time is to be prepared for the worst, yet expectant for the best, right? And when I say that, I'll finally let the cat out the bag and say that I had saved about 1.5 years worth of dollars pretty much in order to be able to pay my bills. Like I said, I had somebody that was already covering my mortgage, and so I was able to cover 1.5 years worth of bills outside of that mortgage. And then I was also saying, if I have to eat ramen noodles, if I have to, eat beans or whatever it is, I'm gonna do these things. Like, this is a sacrifice that I'm gonna take, because one of the things that I kept telling myself, especially early on, was this is only temporary, right? These sacrifices that I'm making are only temporary. They're temporary while I'm building and while I'm gaining additional income. And so having that mentality is super helpful. And then on the other side is to expect the best, right? And so, like I said, my business has grown like tremendously without me even knowing this was going to happen. I gained corporate clients without knowing that. Like, corporate clients will literally be coming to me. Guys, I do not do a lot of actually going out literally and cold calling and selling to people. Instead, like I said, I have other methods. I use what I know from marketing and from content marketing and lead generation and all that type of stuff in order to gain clients. So yes, there is definitely a method to the madness that I take, and it definitely has paid off. But like I said, it's just really be expecting for the best. The reality is that if you put your mind to it, and if you put your heart, soul, eat, drink, I have a lot of nights that I don't sleep a lot, guys. I know that it looks glamorous and all this kind of stuff, but there's a lot that goes in. There definitely is anxiety, that comes along with payment. Even though you're getting paid, you still don't have like this traditional paycheck. So you're working this project and you have these retainers, and you're just wondering like, okay, what's next? And then when you're just building a business, there's just anxiety and a feeling of being overwhelmed that comes with that. But at the end of the day, it's a labor of love. It's what we said we signed up for, and I'm doing it, guys. And I encourage you all, if this is your goal, if this is your dream, go ahead and do it. Remember, you don't need 10,000 followers. I just started like this YouTube channel, right? Or I probably started at some point in time, but I'm just getting serious about it, right? And so you don't need all of these things to get a good base, right? Start where you are, don't stay there, and keep it moving, right? So until next time, I really hope that this was helpful. Like I said, I'm here to help all of us make boss moves. I'm on that journey right along with you, and let's do this together, guys. So until next time, holla at ya girl, and I will see you later. Hey.